I'm here with Rich Koslowski, writer, artist, creator, many things, who has a new graphic novel coming out from Top Shelf, and that is called F.A.R.M System, or do I have to say it as the acronym F.A.R.M System?
I think F.A.R.M System is adequate. Yes, we don't
Okay.
have to do we don't have to do the little periods. It is an acronym though.
Yes, yes, for reasons that are very clearly explained in the book. And so it is a superhero slash the business of sports satire kind of merged together. That's the best I can do at this point in the day for me. But so the first thing I've got to ask about it is, you are someone who has done much in the area of satire with your graphic novels. How long have you had this idea?
Oh, it goes well back over 10, 12 years. And I think I was just finishing up The King with IDW. I mean, they're IDW now, Top Shelf.
Right.
Get used to this. They merged a few years ago. Top Shelf was purchased by IDW, and which is phenomenal. But anyways, I was doing my second graphic novel with Top Shelf, The King. And I came up with this other idea. I pitched it to Chris Staros. He loved it. Let's do it as the third book. This will be great. And then I was approached by J.D. Arnold with this other story idea, B.B. Wolf and the 3 LPs. He was very generously offering me a page rate that I couldn't refuse. And we did that instead. So that was my third graphic novel with Top Shelf, which was terrific. And we did a blues CD, had a lot of fun with that. So this F.A.R.M System idea was just put aside for a moment or two. And it ended up being 10 years due to a bunch of things. My wife and I opened up an art store out in California when we moved out there. So that took a lot of my time. I got a phenomenal job at a winery, learning how to make world champion wine. So that took some of my time up. And
okay, the timing might be even better now, because every time I think, okay, the mainstream is about to, they've seen it all, they've done it all. Well, it only grows in popularity. So I guess the question is, when you first came up with this idea, was it this fully formed, and what really sparked it?
That's a great question, and it is a great thing that it was shelved for a little while, because I was able to develop it more, and it blossomed over time. I kept adding little segments. Over 10 years, I'd get an idea for a segment of the story or a new character, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a great 3-page segment in this book. So I'd write it down, I'd develop it, and I had, over a period of 10 years then, I had like 50 different fully formed segments, and the timing was right. And then I was literally about to call Chris Staros and say, I'm ready, let's do this again. And I read that they merged with IDW. It was like all the stars aligned. It just was perfect timing, more marketing, a bigger, broader fan base. And I wrote Chris, and I actually called him right away. I said, Chris, everything just seems to be in alignment now. What do you think? And he's like, yes. So let's do it. And I had, this thing was 50 pages of notes on my computer. Then the hard part was getting it all cohesive, finding the main storyline that pulled it all together. And it took I already had at least 25 pages drawn in this 10-year period, little segments here and there. And then it was just one full year, every day working on it to get this 208-page book all put together. And it was just like a puzzle, I love doing puzzles. So putting a puzzle together of my own story fragments into one cohesive story, which I always had kind of an idea how it was going to go. But when I pieced it together and started thumbnailing it out, it took a life of its own, and everything gelled together perfectly.
And it's interesting that you say it was like a puzzle, because I thought to myself reading it, it was kind of like that, in that we're jumping around a little bit in time, definitely trusting the reader to put some pieces together as to who did what to whom and when and how and why. And I think in all this, we haven't actually explained superheroes, sports. Your concept is basically like a sports. See, a F.A.R.M system, that's as far as I go with my knowledge of baseball. I understand the concept. more because I've been watching Welcome to Wrexham. So tell me, describe the book for yourself.
Yeah. I am a baseball fan, always have been from little on. And Branch Rickey was the guy way back in the 20s, 30s, I believe, 1930s, who developed a farm system where they develop up and coming talents in baseball in a minor league system. They nurture them, they train them until they feel they're ready to make the big leagues. So I felt in a world of superheroes, if you got hundreds of these guys out there running around in their tights and underpants, they wouldn't all just make a team. If they're smart, or if a guy out there is smart, and in my case, an agent that formerly represented sports athletes, he figured out, I'm going to start repping these guys. I'm going to sign them to these minor league deals. I'll train them at my facility, and then I will approach the big league teams like the Avengers and the Fantastic Five. I can't use the other names, of course, but these big name teams out there. Hey, I've got this talent. He's going to be a good fit for your team. And let's face it, if superheroes were out there running around, they wouldn't all be risking their lives for nothing. They're facing life in that situations every day. They're going to want to get paid. Yeah, they want to be good guys and they want to do well, but not all of them are billionaire Tony Starks or Bruce Wayne who have billions of dollars who can afford to do this. So if they're going to train and hope and dream and of becoming this hero, they need to get paid or compensated in some way so they can deliver. And that's how the idea came about.
And though it doesn't actually begin necessarily, I mean, it does give that setup, but the actual baseball, a few pages in, we get this, which I should call it the softball game, because what I felt reading it was, you encapsulated or merged in one of the things that I know people loved about like the X-Men in the late 80s was that idea of they just hung out and played sports. And so I thought, it's not to spoil anything because that's it, again, within the first 10 or so pages, that I'm seeing that X-Men softball game that I think it was Paul Smith who drew. And you even, as you said, you can't use the actual names, but one character who is very important to the story bears a suspicious resemblance to the old Knucklehead, as Garth Ennis would have put it. So, and a kid even asks, was that, and so it's really interesting. So, there's clearly an affection for superheroes. You're not, or at least a familiarity, enough of a familiarity to say you're not ripping into them.
Yeah, my main character is often mistaken for another very well-known character. My heroes and my characters exist in the world with Marvel and DC characters, although you can't always use them visually. You can name them to a degree. So he's often confused, my main character called the Gymnast, because of his stature, his size, his physique, his hair, his grumpy, growly exterior, for another famous hero, which much to his chagrin. But he is at the end of the line. He's pushing it beyond his capabilities. He's getting older now. And he's still fighting so hard to make it to the big leagues, even though he's floundered in the farm system for well over a decade and a half. He's given up everything to make his dream come true, which parallels a lot of the stories of guys in baseball or guys like me who are chasing my dream of being a comic book artist. A lot of people I think are going to be able to relate to this, where people just don't give up. They follow that dream no matter what. And that's a lot about what Farm System is about. These guys and girls and heroes that want to achieve something. Maybe they don't have the power set, or they're not good looking enough to fit a marketing platform a lot of teams are looking for. But it's their desire. They want to do better. They're not maybe as powerful or whatever as some of the other big leaguers out there, but they just won't give up. They won't give in. Sometimes they have to take jobs as bodyguards for some corporate CEO to pay the bills. They get these little gigs, these blue cowl gigs, I call them, instead of blue collar. Sometimes they get offers from teams of a less reputable ilk. But the agent's job is to field all offers, and present it to the client, and then they have to make that choice. Very, very rarely do they get the call. Very rarely do we get a Superman out of the farm system. That's a once in a lifetime kind of character. Usually we get these B tier or C tier characters who are overachievers or trying to be. And that's where I find the interest in it, in the storyline. And I have so many more storylines to go after this first book. I've already got.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, book 2 is plotted out. It deals with some of the, it deals with other parallels in sports and troubles and again, real life. Yeah. Always real life.
You got to my next question. So I will jump to another, which is that you said, it's like you trying to live the dream, and you have been successful. Eisner Award winning, acknowledged. Almost. My apologies. Okay.
I won the Ignatz Award for Three Fingers and a Prism Award. I won a few awards, a Glyph Award for Best Artist. But the Eisners, I've just been nominated. So
my misunderstanding. But I would say still, I've known your work, and you brought up Three Fingers. And to me, what I see this thread of, it's trying to be an artist versus we've got an exploitative culture. And that keeps drawing you back, because that's definitely what Farm System was to me as well. Again, not being as familiar necessarily with the ins and outs of baseball history, but understanding that has happened. So what is it about that is the thing that you keep sublimating, or not even sublimating? It's text, it's not subtext in your work.
I'm always fascinated by pop culture, be it sports, comics, music. There is that. I just finished reading Hollywood Babylon about the 1930s actors and all those suicides.
Oh, Kenneth Anger's book. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. And it's so tragic what a lot of them went through. So I'm always fascinated by the darker, seedier underbelly of pop culture. It's the old, you can't go by a train wreck without stopping and gawking. I love that part of it. I find it very interesting. I'm not always comfortable with it. I admit that. It's repulsive at times, especially with Hollywood. But in sports, the main thing for me, again, was because I have played sports competitively. I was never good enough to be a major leaguer or anything, but I understand the desire of being the best you can be and winning at all costs. I would never go to the lengths some of these guys do with the juicing up and all that. But I get it, the desire for it. And I really parallel with it with our industry of comics. I've met hundreds of other creators who are always like, why him and why not me? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? And it's that, just finding that one little edge or person to connect you with the right person, or your little hook or something special or fresh that nobody's ever thought of. And I just connect with those people, those Hollywood actors, those singers, the musicians, athletes, and other comic book people. So I think this book touches on that. I hope people get the allegory between all these things and the connection. It's a lot about hope and redemption and triumph, and a lot of misery with never kind of maybe sometimes making your dream come true. But there's always that hope. That's the end of it all.
Yeah. Okay. And it resonates with me, as I'm far from being the boy in Fanboy Planet. So I appreciate that. And this comes out at the beginning of November. I guess first week of November. Again, Farm System from Top Shelf. And so it is great. And I'm so excited to hear that there's more, because I really enjoyed it. So thank you for taking the time to say it.
I certainly appreciate it. Thank everybody out there for supporting my past work. I hope you like this book.
Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any Fanboy Planet video content. And visit fanboyplanet.com for other features, reviews, interviews, previews, and of course, listening to the Fanboy Planet podcast. And remember, use your powers for good.